Here is what's coming up in today's Frontline compilation. 2 soldiers crouch beneath shattered rubble, frozen as an FPV circles above. The drone tips forward and dives. Does the strike finish them, or do they somehow crawl out alive? A motorcycle skims across broken ground with 2 Russians clinging on. A drone gives chase, closing the distance, and when it strikes, the bike erupts in flames. A full Russian platoon gathers in the open, vehicles lined and weapons at the ready. Then the first shells land. Can anyone hold formation as artillery tears the field apart? A lone soldier lies still in the dirt, feigning death, but the drone doesn't buy it. A charge drops, shrapnel cuts deep, yet somehow he staggers to his feet. How far can he run after that? This is real footage, no effects, just raw moments from the battlefield. Subscribe to stay updated on every Frontline report, and stick around to see it all unfold. Let's get into it. A Ukrainian rocketeer is filmed making his way through a narrow trench, carefully moving forward until he halts to prepare his shoulder-fired launcher. After aiming, he releases the first rocket, which arcs outward and lands between 2 Russian soldiers who are sprinting at a distance. The strike does not hit them directly, and they continue running. The perspective cuts back to the rocketeer as he quickly reloads and launches a second shot, before dropping back down into cover. The sequence ends at that point. This footage comes from the Donetsk region of Ukraine, and the weapon being used appears to be the Ukrainian-made RPG-16. Reconnaissance drone footage from the Zaporizhia region shows the destruction of 2 Ukrainian-operated M113 armored personnel carriers near the village of Obratne. The video then transitions to a Russian tank that comes under fire from an anti-tank guided missile. The missile connects with the vehicle, but the impact is not enough to knock it out, and the tank continues driving forward. Farther down its route, however, the tank rolls directly over a landmine, triggering a massive detonation that disables it completely. White smoke billows across the surrounding field, and the footage closes with a view of the tank engulfed in flames. A Ukrainian tank belonging to the 60th Separate Mechanized Brigade is seen advancing across open terrain, its movement deliberate and exposed. It halts in position and begins firing a sustained series of shells toward Russian fighting positions along an unspecified section of the front. The perspective switches to show the impact points where the shells are landing, scattering earth and debris. The camera then returns to the tank as it reverses slowly away from the line after delivering its barrage. A Ukrainian FPV drone hovers steadily above a pile of rubble where 2 Russian soldiers are attempting to take cover. The drone angles downward and strikes directly onto their position, detonating on impact. In the aftermath, both men are seen crawling slowly from the debris, visibly shaken and wounded. A follow-up segment then shows another drone piloted into the entrance of a dugout, where it detonates inside the confined space, causing additional destruction. An FPV drone locks onto 2 Russian soldiers riding together on a motorcycle as they speed across an open field. The drone maintains a relentless pursuit, closing the distance as the men attempt to escape. Eventually, it connects with the motorcycle, detonating on impact. The bike bursts into flames, throwing the riders from it. The camera lingers on the aftermath, focusing on the burning wreckage left behind. Footage released by Ukraine's separate 77th Airmobile Brigade compiles a sequence of precise drone strikes against Russian personnel and equipment across the front. Each clip shows smaller-scale impacts delivered one after another, striking dugouts, vehicles, and exposed infantry. Taken together, the compilation emphasizes the methodical, steady erosion of Russia's ability to mount assaults or resupply their positions under constant Ukrainian pressure. In the Kherson region, drone footage records 3 Russian soldiers running quickly through a trench as they attempt to reach cover. Overhead, a kamikaze drone hovers and tracks their movement. One of the soldiers halts briefly, raising his weapon and firing upward in an attempt to shoot the drone down, but the rounds miss their mark. The drone continues unimpeded, diving into the trench entrance and detonating inside the bunker. Smoke drifts out and spreads across the position as the clip comes to an end. A Russian TOR, short-range air defense system, is caught in the open by an FPV drone. The drone dives toward it, forcing the vehicle to stop abruptly. Subsequent strikes are then carried out in succession, each one hitting with precision until the system is left heavily damaged and rendered unusable. Drone footage released by Ukraine's 110th Mechanized Brigade captures a Russian T-90 tank maneuvering through a ruined landscape of shattered buildings and rubble. The tank is repeatedly targeted by FPV drones, each strike slamming into the armored vehicle and progressively damaging it. After several hits, flames take hold of the tank, and secondary explosions soon erupt from inside. Thick white smoke begins pouring from the hull in heavy quantities, rising above the wreck as the footage concludes. Helmet camera footage recorded by fighters of Azov's 3rd Assault Brigade shows Ukrainian troops engaged in intense close-quarters combat within a ruined urban area of Donetsk. The soldiers move carefully across shattered streets, firing their weapons and taking cover among the remains of destroyed buildings. The footage is presented as a compilation of scenes, each capturing moments of fierce combat at extremely close range. Drone video released by Ukrainian forces captures a Russian quad bike positioned near a trench line. Ammunition is dropped directly onto the parked vehicle, detonating on impact. The explosion sets the quad bike ablaze, and the camera continues to film as it burns fiercely beside the defensive position. Russian-released video shows 2 BTR-82 armored personnel carriers belonging to VDV forces conducting a rapid drive-by attack on Ukrainian-held positions. Each vehicle brings its 30mm autocannon to bear, firing a rapid succession of high-explosive rounds into a tree line suspected of concealing Ukrainian troops. After delivering their bursts, both BTRs accelerate and withdraw from the area, leaving smoke hanging over the tree line. Operators of Ukraine's 30th Brigade direct a reconnaissance drone over a Russian fighting position. A Russian soldier is spotted firing from partial cover, but soon notices the drone overhead. He quickly shoots upward, hitting it but failing to disable it. The drone maneuvers around and releases ammunition near him, prompting him to duck under overhead protection. Additional Russian soldiers scramble out from the dugout, fleeing toward the rear, while a second drop lands close behind them. Drone operators of the Perun Group, part of Ukraine's 79th Air Assault Brigade, release footage targeting scattered Russian troops following a failed assault. The video highlights disabled MTLBS fitted with improvised protective cages and at least one abandoned tank. Ukrainian drones drop munitions near the immobilized vehicles, striking infantry who linger close by. The footage captures one wounded soldier crawling next to his track, while another lies motionless behind cover. The sequence underlines how, even though Ukrainian advances around Avdiivka have slowed, Russian losses in men and material continue to erase any ground gained from their failed pushes. A Russian soldier lies motionless on open ground, attempting to feign death in the hope of avoiding attack. The drone observing him nevertheless angles in and detonates nearby, delivering a serious head wound. Startled and injured, the man rises unsteadily, staggering to his feet before attempting to flee the impact site in a dazed run. Drone video, released by Ukraine's 59th Motorized Brigade, documents repeated strikes on a Russian electronic warfare system deployed to counter Ukrainian drones. Several munitions land squarely on the equipment, one after another. The footage concludes with the system heavily damaged, flames consuming it as it burns in place. At least 5 Russian tanks are filmed advancing in formation across a battlefield. Suddenly, buried tank mines explode beneath the lead vehicles, halting their movement. Anti-tank guided missiles then strike those following behind. The combined effect of mines and missile fire stops the entire column in its tracks, leaving multiple destroyed and burning wrecks scattered across the route. Ukrainian drone footage shows a Russian armored assault south of Donetsk attempting to break through Ukrainian defenses. The vehicles push forward in formation, but one by one they are targeted and destroyed, either by missiles or mines, until tanks and BMPs are left burning in place. The attempted advance fails completely, reduced to smoking wreckage littering the ground. A kamikaze drone released by the Russian Bobomorph unit hovers above a trench line, waiting for an opportunity. A Ukrainian soldier sprints along the trench and briefly exposes himself while moving. The drone pilot reacts quickly, accelerating the drone forward. As the soldier stumbles, the drone closes in and detonates at very close range, cutting off his escape. Drone video released by Ukraine's 47th Mechanized Brigade captures an FPV drone zeroing in on a Russian tank in motion. The drone accelerates and strikes directly against the tank's armor. The vehicle is visibly damaged, slowing in speed, but it continues rolling forward as smoke trails from it. The video ends with the tank still moving, but clearly crippled. Russian trucks are shown unloading supplies under the cover of trees, with soldiers carrying boxes and equipment to concealed collection points nearby. A wider aerial view then captures artillery or HIMARS rockets striking the area, detonating in violent bursts. Smoke rises over the position as soldiers scatter, and at least one man is seen limping away from the blast. Ukrainian drone footage near Avdiivka records a crippled Russian UR-77 mine-clearing vehicle that has already been disabled. FPV drones are directed against it, detonating repeatedly until the vehicle, still carrying explosive line charges, catches fire. Moments later, the payload ignites in a massive secondary explosion that sends a shockwave racing across the ground. Overhead drone video shows Ukrainian Special Operations Forces striking Russian combat vehicles near the town of Molokhanska, about 20 miles south of the Zaporizhzhia frontline. Several armored vehicles are destroyed in the strikes, burning intensely and releasing thick columns of smoke. Reports indicate the Russian unit was moving to reinforce positions near Robotyne, but was intercepted and stopped short. A platoon-sized group of Russian troops is visible, moving across open ground when they are suddenly targeted by a HIMARS-launched guided rocket. The rocket strikes directly in the center of their formation, detonating with force. The soldiers immediately scatter in multiple directions, breaking into a chaotic retreat as the footage cuts off. Footage from the ongoing battle for Avdiivka shows a large concentration of Russian vehicles gathered closely together in a confined area. Ukrainian artillery begins striking the position with accuracy, each round landing among the vehicles. Multiple targets are destroyed in quick succession, and thick, dark smoke rises to blanket the cluster, leaving the area in flames and ruin. That's today's raw footage, no filters, no fluff. This is M6 Archive, always first on the front lines. Subscribe and drop a comment if you want more.